Namaste and welcome to Awakened Living with Nibodhi. Today we're exploring something deeply personal and yet still totally universal. I think everyone can probably relate to today's topic, confusion, and moving from confusion into clarity. One of my Ayurveda teachers said, in order to go from confusion to clarity, we must first realize that we're actually confused. And this simple truth holds the essence of Vedic psychology, yogic psychology, and Ayurvedic living. In today's episode, we're going to explore why we feel confused, why we get disconnected, why we feel overwhelmed, and how we can remember the self and transform our experiences in the world into clarity. And we're going to draw teachings from Kashmir Shaivism, Vedanta, yoga, Ayurveda, and modern practices that help us to return to the truth of who we are. When I forget who I am, the world appears to be very confusing. And when I remember who I am, the world is really divine. It's this divine place of infinite joy and rapture, and I'm in awe in every single moment. The flowers, the wind, the birds, the trees, the river. There's moments in life, sometimes very subtle and sometimes very jarring, when the world around us really feels overwhelming and nothing really makes sense. And in that, we become fragmented. We get lost in the swirl of our emotions and the mind's judgments and its projections and the roles we're supposed to play and all the responsibilities we're supposed to have, and piled on with all the expectations. It really starts to feel like life is happening to us rather than through us or even for us. And this confusion is not actually caused by the world itself. It comes because we forgot who we are. We forgot who we truly are. So the first and most important question to ask is, who am I? Am I my thoughts? Am I my mind? Am I my emotions? Am I the body, which will eventually perish? And why does life feel overwhelming sometimes? Even when I know that I am not this body or my thoughts or my mind, why does life feel so overwhelming? Why do I still get confused? When I forget who I am, when I identify with my mind's distortions and listen to the voice of the inner critic or my cultural conditioning, or the need to prove something, or the need to please, or the need to survive, that leads to deeper and deeper confusion. And in that, I become the person or the mask, trying to manage all the perceptions, trying to secure safety or love or significance. But when I'm not in that state, when I'm in the I am state, when I'm aware that I am a sovereign being separate from the body, the mind, the emotions, then in that there's a freedom. It's not that I don't have them or I bypass them. It's just I'm not attached to them as who I am. But when the mind is fogged over, the fog of forgetfulness, then in that we chase external validation. And we feel empty even if we're getting it. Even if someone tells you how great you are, how great we are, it doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel whole. It feels like we're a fraud or something. And then in that, we're over-identifying with our pain, our success, our story. And we mistake fear for intuition and defense mechanism for wisdom. And that is what the Vedas call Maya. That's the illusion. Illusion doesn't mean it's not real. It's just not the truth. It's not the eternal truth. It's not permanent. And in that, we end up trying to fix the external world instead of trying to fix ourselves or reestablish connection to self. And the more we try and fix the external world, being disconnected from self, the more distorted everything appears. in Vedic psychology, especially as it's taught in Ayurveda, confusion arises from this concept of avidya, which means ignorance or misperception. We have no knowledge about the self. But it's not really the ignorance in the sense of being uninformed. It's the forgetting of the true nature. The true nature, Om Tat Sat, I am that, Aham Brahmasmi, I am one with Brahman. We lose touch with the self, with the Atma. And then we start identifying with the shifting layers of mind, body, and emotion, which is just the dance of the creation, but it's not the creation itself. It's just one act in the creation. And then when we get really confused, we begin to think that we are these ancient thoughts, these anxious thoughts. We begin to identify with the painful memories. We begin to think that we're the person that all this stuff happened to. And that distortion leads to addictions because we seek validation outside ourselves. We seek comfort outside of ourselves. We seek solutions outside of ourselves. Whether we're addicted to work to get praise, to get a promotion, so we're told how good of an employee we are, or addicted to a substance, or whatever the habit or behavior may be. In that state, we're in constant state of reaction versus response. And we believe that the world is not a safe place. We believe that the world is out to get us. We believe crazy stuff. In Ayurveda, it's an imbalance of rajas. It's an imbalance of the material energy. Rajas is just energy. It's an imbalance in that. It's an overactivity of that. Or on the flip side, it's over tamasic. It's inertia. When the sattvic quality, the pure state of awareness is strong, we have clarity. But when it's clouded, we're confused. And that's not a character flaw. That doesn't mean we're good, bad, right, or wrong, we're special or not special, anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's part of being human. And what it's ultimately telling us is that we need to return. We need to return to the innocence. We need to return to ourself. And in that return, in that need to return, if we can actually have the grace of remembering, that's where shift starts happening. And it can happen spontaneous, like satori, an instant revelation or an instant spark. It can happen through meditation. It can happen through heartbreak. It can happen through being out in nature. It can happen through just being still for a moment, a single moment of grace. And we remember, we re-become whole, we re-become established to who we actually are. We remember that we're not the roles that we play. We remember that we're not our emotions, that we're not the trauma or the triumph. We're not the success either. We are the witness consciousness, the eternal self, that presence of love behind the mask. In that remembrance, confusion gives way to clarity. It just surrenders. It's like that darkened room. You light the candle and the room is no longer dark. Confusion gets dissolved in that light. And resistance surrenders to surrender. It gives way to surrender. And judgment gives way to compassion. And really, the world and all the messiness and all the drama, that's what we call the Leela, the play, the divine play. But it's only fun if we're not attached. If we're totally attached to how we think it should be or the outcome, we're missing the present moment. We're missing the joy of just being the actor in the play. The actor in the play, once that curtain closes, now becomes John Smith again, or Frank Jones, or whoever. They go back to being themselves. They're no longer the actor. We're identifying with the actor instead of the person who's being who's actually behind the act. And We're the same person, but behind the different circumstances, behind the different challenges. And when we really understand that it's a Leela, it's a play, it all begins to have a new meaning. And it's not because anything outside of us changed. The external didn't change at all. We changed. We aligned with who we are. We aligned with the truth. We aligned with love. And in the Vedic path, in Kashmir Shaivism, in Vedanta, in the non-dual, the path that sees everything as one, the remembering is called Pratyabhijna. Pratyabhijna. It means the recognition of the self as Shiva, as pure consciousness. The divine reality chose to express itself through us, through our breath, through our sensation, through our thought, through our emotion, through our actions. Pratyabhijna, the recognition of the self as the pure consciousness. And it doesn't mean acquiring anything new. It doesn't mean we have to spend $50,000 and run off and do every workshop there is on self-realization. In fact, it's just the opposite of that. It means remembering what is already and always has been true. We don't become divine. You can't become divine because you're divine. You just remember that you're divine. And it's not just a remembering. It's a knowing. It's a deep inner knowing. Bob Marley said, "Who feels it knows it." Who feels it knows it. Even in the pain, even in the doubt, even in the contraction, you are remembering who you actually are. This is not bypassing the human experience. So many spiritual traditions they don't talk about it consciously, but they say just get out of the mind complex. There's a bypass in that. We should get out of the mind complex, the identification with it, but we don't bypass the human experience. It includes the human experience. It is the human experience. This is a revelation that the divine doesn't live apart from the world. It pulses through it. Who do you think created all of this? We didn't create this material world with the 5 elements and the 2.3 trillion galaxies that we can see. The universe is so infinitely simple and complex. We have a telescope that can see 2.3 trillion galaxies, and modern NASA and science is telling us we're only seeing 2% of the universe. We have this tiny little Earth in a very small solar system. And our solar system is very large from our perspective, but we're one little solar system in a actually really small galaxy called the Milky Way with 300 million other galaxies. And we're one galaxy of 2.3 trillion that we can actually see, and we're 2% of the universe. The universe is divine. It's infinite. And we are so attached to this little experience we have as being real in 100 years or 80 years, whatever we're here for. The revelation of divinity is that the divine is not separate from every single breath we take, every single step we take. And it pulses through us as us. The divine created us to experience itself as itself. So if you have fear, that's not a mistake. That's Shakti. That's the divine dance, the divine energy in its contracted state. If you have jealousy, it's not shameful. It's just energy trying to seek some kind of integration, trying to get more love. Every emotion is a divine mudra of God, and every experience is this beautiful asana, this flow of life as our own soul. We are divine, but not in this abstract way, not in an unreachable way, not in the doing way. It comes from not doing. There's a saying, don't just do something, sit there. If you want to know the truth, take time each day and just sit there and just be there. That's the core essence of who we are, is being. Whether we're crying or loving or laughing or raging or breathing or making love or swimming or eating, The divine pulses through all of that. Who we are in essence is Shiva, pure consciousness appearing in form. And we're Shakti, expressing life force in every movement. Again, we don't have to become something else. We just have to stop identifying with what we're not. That's why Ramana Maharshi, the great yogi, Rishi, said, "Who am I?" And, just asked this question, am I the thoughts? Am I the emotions? He just basically threw negation. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my emotions. I'm not my body. Who am I? What's left? The awareness, the one behind the questioning. In the Upanishads, there's a dictum, Mahavyakta, this great saying, Tatvamasi, thou art that. It's telling us exactly who we are. We are that. We are that supreme principle. The self is not some distant reality. It is the witness. It is the presence behind the facade. And when we glimpse that, even for a brief second, the whole world becomes illuminous. The same outer world appears different, and we're seeing the world through the eyes of the self. From the Ayurvedic perspective, we have this Shankya, these 24 cosmic principles, and the mind, manas, is seen as having its own different tendencies that manifest through Vata, Pitta, Kapha, or Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And what happens is we forget who we are, often due to imbalances in the dosha of the mind. Because what Vata in the mind does is provides us with too much activity. We lose our groundedness. We feel scattered. And in that, we become filled with anxiety and fear and overwhelm. We don't know what to do. We don't know which action to take. That's when we sit still, stop doing action. For a Pitta mind, they dwell in this place of harsh self-judgment because they're stuck in this perfectionism, thinking that there's one way better than the other, and Pitta usually thinks that their way is right. And so they push beyond balance. They're workaholics. They have to achieve something to show their worth. And with a Kapha, the mind through a Kapha mind leads to stagnation, a lack of motivation, sadness, and ultimately depression. And each of these states can really veil the access we have to our inner truth, to our inner self. If you've been curious about Ayurveda and want to actually understand your body and start applying it into your daily life, I built the complete Ayurveda course for exactly that. It contains more than 30 years of education and practice distilled into 50 lessons, with over 10 hours of content, guided meditations, personalized assessments, and so much more. It's designed so you'll feel real shifts as you go through it. You'll experience more energy, better digestion, increased mental clarity, and a deeper sense of balance. Lesson by lesson, it's all there. So go to Nibodhi.com/courses to learn more. One of the reasons it's so profound is that it gives us a path back to the self. Shankya lays out 24 cosmic principles that explain how the world came into being and how to go back to self. It's through daily rhythms, this dinacharya. It's through nourishing the mind and the body with sattvic foods, with pure sattvic relationships in a clean environment. And the earth, Mother Earth, has provided us, whether it's Ayurvedic herbs or Western herbs, has provided us herbs that calm the mind, support our remembrance, support our endocrine system to go back to homeostasis so we can be in a state of equilibrium to know who we are. Herbs like ashwagandha and tulsi, they're profound adaptogens. Brahmi makes the mind so bright and shiny. Ayurveda and yoga give us these practices like alternate nostril breathing, anuloma viloma, or nadi shodhana that balance the mental doshas and awaken a deep awareness within us. Every time I do alternate nostril breathing for 10 or 15 minutes, I feel so calm and so peaceful and so much more centered in the self, in my own self. And what Ayurveda is teaching us, what yoga is teaching us, is it's an invitation to live in alignment with our prakriti, our basic nature. When we understand our basic nature, body, mind, and consciousness, it's much easier to stay in that harmonic balance. And when we do, we remember the self more frequently because we're not spending all of our time managing imbalances. And when we don't spend our time focusing on dis-ease, illness, imbalances, we can spend more time remembering. And moving from forgetting to remembering takes practice. Remembrance is not a one-time event. It's a practice. It's a sacred rhythm of returning. I've had glimpses several times throughout my life, like real glimpses of that. And it lasted for a very short period of time. It's a practice until it's not a practice, until we're just there. But it's returning to the breath. It's returning to taking time to witness the thoughts. Sit there and just watch the thoughts come and go. Where do they come from? They form like clouds out of nowhere, and then they go like clouds into nowhere. So take time each day to just sit and watch the thoughts like an observer. Observe the thoughts. Wow, fascinating. There's one, there's one, there's one. Hey, I want to have some pizza right now. I don't really want to be doing a podcast right now. Pizza would go good with some ice cream and maybe some jalapenos on that. And after that, I should take a bath. And, oh, wait, maybe I should return to the podcast. You just watch the thoughts. You just watch them as they come without identifying with them. You don't identify that they're good, bad, right, wrong. You just notice them. And then through the breath and through witnessing the thoughts, we return to the heart. We can breathe into the heart. We can focus on love. And really, there's going to be days where we're crystal clear most of the day. And there's going to be days where we're in a dense fog. We just forget. And that's okay. The forgetting is just as much a part of the journey as the remembering. And really what matters here is that we just create pathways for ourselves to have a constant path back to remembering, whether it's through ritual, through meditation, through journaling, through going in nature, through prayer, through chanting, through movement, through honest self-inquiry. There's so many ways. There's infinite ways because we have 8 billion people here. Each person's way is going to be unique. There's so many trees in the forest. Each tree is unique. Just like the trees in the forest were unique. And so your way is your way. Never compare. Comparing is confusion. You cannot have clarity in comparison. So don't look at my way as how you should do your way. But here's a few things that really do help. This is what I've used. This is what I use, and this is what helps me. So I'm just going to share it. And maybe it's inspiring you to do something similar, but you have to do it in your own way. Number 1, pranayama, breath awareness. Breathe and everything changes. And especially in that pause between the inhalation and exhalation. It's in the pause, the gap. That stillness in between inhalation and exhalation, between life and death. That stillness is where the self lives. That's the stillness where Shiva, pure consciousness, exists. And in the Vedic tradition, there's a concept called Sakshi Bhava. It's witness meditation. I was talking about that. Just simply watch without judgment. And guess what? We are going to get lost. We are going to get attached to the thoughts, and we're going to get caught in the riptide of those thoughts. And then we just remember that, oh yeah, I was supposed to be witnessing that, but I got stuck in the riptide. And so you gently swim out of the riptide and you start watching again. And you'll get caught again, and you just keep going back and forth. And the amount of time we get caught becomes less and less, and we get caught less frequently and for a less period of time. One of my foundational practices is doing mantra. That is the vibrational pattern of the universe. In the beginning was the word. That word was Om. And that Om is the vibrational pattern of creation, preserving the creation and ultimately transforming the creation back into itself. So mantra vibrates at the state of remembrance of self. And it can be whatever mantra you feel. I personally love Vedic mantras. So you can do Soham or Shivoham or Om Tat Sat or Aham Brahmasmi or Om Namah Shivaya. There's so many mantras that can be done. And if you like in English, I am that. I am love. I am pure consciousness. I am one with the divine. It can be however you want, but that repetition brings the mind into one-pointed, focused awareness, because that's what mantra actually means. Man is manas. Trataka, Trataka is to bring the mind into one-pointed, focused awareness. And then eventually, trayate, manasa trayate, we go beyond the mind. Beyond the mind is self. Beyond the mind is witness. And another really great practice is tangibly writing it down, journaling about with self-inquiry. Who am I beneath this emotion? Who am I beyond this thought? What part of me is eternal? What if this experience, this difficult experience, is actually divine? What if this difficult experience is my guru, my teacher? So journaling is a very, very profound tool to self-inquiry and to self-awareness. And really, one of the most important things is nature, the connection to nature. The Vedic wisdom treats nature as the divine mother. It reveres nature as Prakriti, the living Shakti. And sometimes this remembering of who you are means you just need to put your bare feet on the earth and look at the sky and listen to the wind. One of my favorite authors, Henry David Thoreau, has the most beautiful example of this. He said a few things that I want to share here. He said, all of nature is doing her best each moment to make us well. She exists for no other end. Do not resist her. With the least inclination to be well, we should not be sick. Blessed are they who have never read a newspaper, for they shall see nature and through her God. Every part of nature teaches that the passing away of one life is the making of room for another. We need the tonic of wilderness. At the same time, we are earnest to explore and learn new things. We require that all things be mysterious and unexplorable, that the land and the sea be indefinitely wild, unsurveyed and unfathomed by us, because unfathomable she is. We can never have enough of nature. Go outside. This is one of the most profound ways to connect to self. If you can only go outside a few hours a day, 30 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, go outside, do it. Put your feet on the earth, breathe the clean air. But I highly encourage you, get a tent, get a cabin, go for a weekend, go for a week, go for 3 weeks a year out into nature, into the mountains, by the rivers, by the lakes, by the waterfalls, by the streams. It doesn't matter where you go, just go. She will heal. Another way of actually returning to ourself, returning to consciousness, is through the Ayurvedic practice of Abhyanga, self-oil massage. It's not just for the body. It's a ritual that's called snehana, love, to love oneself. The same word for oil is the same word for affection, sneha, oily, to love oneself. Sneha is love. This is a remembrance through touch. When you apply the oil to your body, imagine you're applying the oil to your lover, to the beloved, to God, Goddess, to the Supreme Being, which is actually you. Do it with loving devotional awareness. These things help us to remember. These are Ayurveda practices: breath awareness, witness consciousness, mantra, journaling, nature. You can do all those things in nature. Doing oil massage, do it all in nature. But here's the thing. When we remember who we are, the world doesn't necessarily become easier. It just becomes sacred. This is really the shift from confusion to clarity, from fragmentation to unity, from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, from not self to self. This shift changes us in ways. We still may have conflict with our partner, with our family, with our boss, with ourself. We still may struggle with health. We still may have fears about the future or regrets about the past. But we change the viewpoint. We change the identification. They all start to look very, very different, because when we see these things through the eyes of the self, not the eyes of fear, they don't bind us. They don't have a grip over our life. We're not a slave anymore. That's freedom. Another quote from Bob Marley: "Free yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind." The confusion is our mental slavery. These pathways of yoga, of Ayurveda, of Vedic wisdom, of indigenous wisdom have given us a solution to our confusion. It tells us that the world is not a problem that needs to be solved. It's a dance. It's a play. It's a dance to enter. And dances are different. If you're listening to heavy metal, there's slam dancing, the mosh pit. You can do salsa. You can do capoeira. You can do hip hop. There's so many ways to dance. Sometimes it's so eloquent and beautiful. Sometimes it's really messy and bloody. But it's real. The most important thing is to dance. As long as you have feet and can walk, you can dance. And if you don't have feet and you can't walk, you can still dance. You can dance within your heart, within your mind, with your arms, with your eyes, with your torso. It's all divine. The world is confusing if we try to navigate it from the outside in. But when we root ourselves in the truth of who we are, we transform and the world around us transforms. Not because the world has changed. It's not because anything outside changes. We change. We see from different eyes. So if you're in confusion right now, if you're having a moment of confusion, whether it's this moment itself or it's been a week or a month or a year or a lifetime, right now you can pause. Don't try and fix the world. The world's not broken. Return to yourself. And begin by asking yourself these questions. Who am I beneath the noise? Who am I beneath the noise? The external noise and the internal noise, but mostly the internal noise. What part of me is untouched by the chaos? What is unchanging in me, even now in the midst of chaos? What part of me is untouched by the chaos of the world? What would it feel like to see this moment as divine? Or what would this moment look like if I saw it as part of a play, as part of a divine play? What would it feel like to see this moment as divine? These are really important questions to ask ourselves, especially if we're confused. And even in clarity, we need to keep reminding ourselves of what we know is true is true. Because the world's not going to remind us. The world's going to try and distract us. The world's going to try and tell us the opposite. So we need to constantly inquire within. And when we go within, we won't go without. We need to let that remembrance arise naturally within us. And in that remembrance, the world becomes luminous. In that remembrance, we're home. Because this is the truth. We have never left the self. We've only been dreaming, hallucinating that we are separate. But we have never left the self. And now we're waking up. We're trying to live an awakened life. We are living an awakened life. I want to finish with a little poem I wrote about this. It's called In That Remembrance. In that remembrance, the world becomes luminous, not because it changed, but because you did. Eyes once veiled by forgetting now see with the heart's own light. In that remembrance, we come home, not to a place, but to presence itself. The breath, the beat, the stillness between the thoughts, all whispering, you are already here. Because the truth is, because the truth is, you have never left the self. We have only wandered through the sacred dream of separation, believing we were alone. But now the veil thins, the soul has stirred, and now we are waking up. Welcome home, beloved, welcome home. Thank you for joining me today. If this touched you in any way, consider sharing it with someone who might be in the fog of forgetfulness, who might need a little inspiration on the path to clarity. And may you walk today with your own remembrance, remembering who you are. And in that remembrance, fill your heart with love and express it in everything you do. Namaste.